First off, I'm gonna lay out all of my pieces just to make sure I have everything and I know what it is, where it goes. So of course I have the underside and the top for the forearm, 2 of each. And then I have all of the hand plates here, and everything's gonna have a label so that you know what it is, how many of it there's supposed to be, and how it fits together. And also what type of post-processing may need to be done on that in order to finish the gauntlets. I've got a couple of buckles here. So there's some hinges for the forearm, wrist spikes. We have lots and lots of the basic finger plate. 2 knuckles, of course. We have the very end fingertip, that secondary fingertip that goes before this one. Now these are the only pieces that matter left and right, just based on where the hinge is gonna go. So this one with the hinge hole here obviously would be your right hand. But other than that, all of these pieces at this point can go for either hand. Then this is just a little top piece that's gonna go with the knuckle, and then the 2 hand hinges. There's also gonna be just some extra random pieces in case you need to test out your finishes or just practice with your techniques before you start working on the final pieces.
Each piece that has a bevel cut in the back needs to be folded along that line and welded in place with a heat tool such as a wood burner or a soldering iron. I've used a 3D printing pen for past gauntlets, but it seems like the heat tool method makes for neater seams that fit together better. Once the thumb plates are welded along that line, go ahead and heat it up with a heat gun and then just kind of stretch and pull that back tip. You want to get it to have this curve so that it's going to curve away from your forearm armor and not get caught on it as you're moving your hand.
So it's a lot of pieces to add this curve to, but if you just get a system going, it doesn't take too long, really. And it gives them just that little bit of curve that makes them look a little more realistic, and they also fit together better. Grab one of those pointy ones. This is the end claw tip.
There are a lot of bevels on those hand plates, so you just have to repeat that process for each one. The 4 wrist spike halves need to be welded together in pairs. Attach a spike onto the end plate for each hand by melting and blending out the edge. Be sure to put them on opposite sides of the plates so that you have a left and a right gauntlet. If you want, you can melt a hole from the back to make it more realistic and sturdy like I'm doing here. You also need to just heat up and curve all of the hand plates so they get the shape that you need to fit your hand and glove. On the knuckles, there's a line of support material along each point, so trim that away with a sharp knife and then use some pliers. That's helpful to remove that inner grid support. Use a rotary tool to sand the outer surface to remove the print lines, then continue sanding away material from the back until it fits comfortably with the hand plates. I did leave most of this infill, which is solid. It's going to make it a lot easier to rivet this in later on. But what I do need to do is add some indentations here for the plates to be able to articulate with the knuckles. While I'm at it, I'm also going to sand and smooth the welded areas around the wrist spikes and remove the print lines from the hinges and buckles.
So you have the option of either having rivets through the knuckles or just leaving them solid like this one is. I've already done these here. I do want the rivet to extend all the way through because I'm going to attach it to the tip of the leather for each finger. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and widen out this hole that's pre-printed into it from the back that goes part of the way through. I don't want to go too deep because this is a tapered tip. I don't want my hole getting too wide. And then while it's still kind of warm, this is the size of nail that I'm going to be using to rivet these. So to press that through, actually kind of cool, but also very dangerous. For the pieces that have the shiny side, I'm going to give these just a light sanding with some 400 grit sandpaper. It's going to just ensure we have the best possible bond. I had to remove a lot more material than I had hoped in order to have this fit how I wanted it with the plates underneath. For future kits, I'm going to revise that a little bit. We want to curve down these outer flaps and then also add a little bit of a curve in this direction so that it follows the shape of the knuckles a little bit better, and then also a slight curve down for the same reason. You may want to wear gloves. Just be careful if you're not wearing gloves that you check and make sure it's not so hot that it's going to burn you before you touch it. Ow, that was hot. It's going to wrinkle up a little bit here, but that's fine. Just want to pull back and a little bit down. I'm just using the screws again to test fit everything. It's nice to get an idea of how things are fitting together and moving together. I've heat molded this a little bit more just by heating just this edge while it's assembled, and you can bend that and hold it and get just the right shape. Now I do still need to sand the tops of these.
On those forearm pieces, I'm doing a bit of preliminary cleanup with sandpaper and the Dremel.
It's a bit hard to sand this filament. It's much easier if you just spray it with a filler primer first. That's going to fill in the imperfections, make sanding a breeze. 2 coats of the filler primer. I sanded after the first coat, added a second thicker coat, and then I've sanded that. I just want it to not look like 3D print lines, but any of the kind of texture, I'm just gonna have that all blend in and add to the aged, weathered effect.
I'll have more videos coming up with ideas for how to paint and assemble everything. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.